Hi, I'm Emily Epp, Manager of Communications at the Cariboo Regional District. This is today's video update for August the 8th. Before we begin, just wanted to put a reminder out there to encourage you to register for the Cariboo Chilcotin Emergency Notification System. That's a really important way that you can find out about evacuation orders and alerts, both when they're put in place and when they're lifted, so you can get notified when you can return home. If you did register a while ago, it would be great if you went back in and made sure your contact information was up to date, and consider having an alternative contact method in addition to a landline in case you aren't home. Then there's still a way that we can reach you. And if you are unable to register online, we actually have a way for you to register over the phone now. During business hours, you can contact our CRD Williams Lake office at 250-392-3351. All right, and with that, Mike, we'll hear from you about the weather.
Sure. So hi, Mike McCulley here again from the BC Wildfire Service here in Williams Lake. I'll start with a little bit about the weather. Continued hot and dry, at least for the next few days, and I believe tomorrow is predicted to be the hottest day of the week so far. So everybody knows what that means. That means increase in our fire behavior once again. The difference is the weekend. We may see some change towards Friday. There are some models that show precipitation in the forecast for the very, very far western edge of the Cariboo Fire Center. With that will come some wind though, and we all know what wind can do to fire. With increased wind, we will see increased fire activity. So the smoky conditions are prevailing over some parts of the fire center, but as soon as those burn off, we're seeing very quick rise in temperature and an increase in fire activity. So that's the future. We're going to be watching very closely what the weekend's going to look like. I do have a little bit of good news when it comes to the weather. I will tell you that the Cariboo Fire Center successfully avoided any lightning strikes over the last 2 days. So we were watching that closely, and that's just great news for our firefighting crews.
Thanks, Mike. And next, if you could give us just a brief update on the Prewton Lake Fire.
Yeah, certainly. We know we did see an increase in activity on the Prewton Lake Fire. It was known as the UBC Research Fire previously. The fire is approximately 265 hectares in size. Yesterday it took a pretty good run. Again, once the smoke burnt off in the day, temperatures increased and there was some gusty winds in the afternoon. So the fire grew quite a lot to the east. It did jump over our initial containment lines, but we did have a secondary contingency line quite a ways out ahead of the fire. We are keeping it within that boundary. We did use some air tankers yesterday. We were using water skimmers today. I believe they were skimming water off of Big Lake. That fire is just to the northeast of Big Lake. So we are seeing growth on that fire. We are watching very closely for the safety of the people around there, and we will be putting our crews in play, and we'll be assessing the surrounding properties and homes with structural protection unit type folks, and we'll be doing our best to look after those people.
And the Cariboo Regional District is working closely with the BC Wildfire Service. As a result of the Prewton Lake fires, earlier this evening, the CRD issued an evacuation order for the area north of McCulley Lake due to that wildfire. That affects about 29 people roughly and 17 homes. For more details on that, you can see the map on our website at cariboord.ca. And Mike, I wondered if you also could give an update around the fires around Williams Lake.
Certainly, and just before we leave the Prewton Lake fire, we will be putting that up as a fire of note on our website, bcwildfires.ca, so over the next few days, folks can look there for information. In terms of the Wildwood fire and the White Lake fire, both of those fires, again, staying within the perimeters, so we're very happy with that, but lots of increase in fire activity. The ground is drying out more and more every day. The longer we go without precipitation, the higher the drought codes get, the higher the fire behavior increases. Yesterday on all the fires around Williams Lake, in mid-afternoon when the smoke burnt off and the ground heated up, we did see our fires start to pop and become more active. We are seeing that again in Wildwood and White Lake, and folks can continue to expect to see that again because of the unburned fuel within the perimeter that I've talked about several times. As far as the Spoken Lake fire goes, again, the southeast corner is by far the most active portion of the fire, but we are focusing an awful lot of effort on the northern half of that fire right now. We're working very hard to try to make it safe so people can come home. We're using infrared scanning technology on that fire almost every night. We then are able to give the exact locations of the hot spots to our crews, and they're out there doing their best they can to try to calm that down so we can, again, make it safe for people to come home. So that's the general update in the vicinity of Williams Lake.
Thanks, Mike. And I wondered if you could touch on any other fires of note in the Caribou.
Sure, certainly. I'll go through some of the fires of note. We know again that yesterday, very hot, dry, as the winds picked up, and anywhere that the smoke cleared off, which wasn't all of the fires, but on any portions of the fire where the smoke cleared off and the ground temperatures picked up, we did see increased activity. Hansville, for example, we know that it continues to grow on the southeast flank, which is the portion directly west of the Fraser River, slightly below the community of Williams Lake. So that's where we focus our effort. And that fire is now over 170,000 hectares in size. We've got lots of resources on it, over 160 firefighters, more than a dozen aircraft, and a lot of heavy equipment. The focus again is building guard lines and building contingency lines. I just want to talk a little bit about guard lines. We know that if we put a guard line in with a piece of equipment, so we're digging away the burnable fuel and digging down to mineral soil, it's very important that we go in there and burn the fuel off from the guard line. It becomes much more effective. It's important for people to understand that, so they know why we're burning fuel between the guard lines and the fire. Unfortunately, when the drought conditions are the way they are, we have to be extremely cautious with our ignition operations, and we're watching that very closely. It makes us take smaller bites out of the landscape, so to speak, but we're going to continue to be doing that, and people can expect that. It's an excellent suppression technique. So moving on to the Tawtree fire again. Heavy smoke hampered their aircraft abilities in Tawtree last night. The smoke is good news again because it keeps things cool, but it does hinder our ability to fly. So there was limited air support, particularly in the southwest corner of the fire. The northeast perimeter as well is the focus. That's where we've got our folks working extremely hard again, trying to gain containment on that northeast corner, just in case the winds switch around a bit as this change in weather comes through. They will continue to do planned ignitions, but again, the drought conditions are so high that they have to be very, very cautious with that. So we'll add our structural protection unit players into the mix, and we'll keep assessing adjacent ranch lands in the north and west, and we're going to do our best to move through that area in a safe manner. I'd like to talk a little bit about the precipice fire, Emily. 54,000 hectares estimated. A little bit different ground type out in the precipice. You're starting to get into more of a coastal effect. So again, as the weather potentially changes across the weekend, we are hoping to see some amounts of precipitation in the precipice area. Our crews will be very happy about that. Same problem they had there, though. Helicopter operations were severely hampered yesterday due to smoky conditions. I expect that would be the same today and possibly again tomorrow. So the focus there is contingency lines on the west and east flanks of that fire. That's where they're working with their large equipment, again trying to put those lines in, and when possible remove the fuel between the lines and the guards. Moving on to the Bezico fire, making good headway on our guard lines there. Between the fire and the community and NASCO, we know that we haven't seen a lot of growth on that fire towards NASCO, and once again, with our priorities being life of our first responders and protection of the highway corridors and the communities, we're going to be working our machinery and equipment in that area between the between the Bezico River fire and the community in NASCO, and we're having some successes there, but that fire absolutely is growing, and we do expect it to start to merge with some of the other fires in the area very quickly. Finally, I'll talk about the Clean and Clean fire. Priority one for the Clean and Clean fire is again to protect the community of Clean and Clean, and also the Highway 20 corridor, which is still open right now. This is our main focus. It's very important for us, and I just wanted to sort of wrap up by saying that we get a lot of questions about the highway corridors and how they're impacted by fire. I want to remind people that sometimes the evacuation orders and alerts that we recommend to the local government are put in play, not so much because your community may be affected by wildfire, but because the highway corridor might be. So that's why that happens. But for updates on which highways are open and closed, please see drivebc.com, and just recognize that it is a very high priority for us. When we have significant fires like we're seeing out in the Chilcotin and west of the Fraser River, it's really important that we maintain some access routes in case we do have to move people out of those areas quickly. So once again, drivebc.com. I would like to wrap up just by talking a little bit about what fire information officers do on a fire. We know that for people, it's a very big struggle trying to find specific information about their fire. So if you look at our website, which is bcwildfire.ca, and you find the Fires of Note section, there will be a little update on the fire, and down at the bottom of that update will be a name and a phone number of the fire information officer particular to that fire. So if you're not getting the exact detail you need from these briefings, please feel free to look at that, find those people, and give them a call directly. They'll be more than happy to try to help you answer some of your questions.
Great, thanks Mike. And yeah, like you said, drivebc.ca is a great resource, as well as the fire information officers directly. For any CRD updates, please visit caribouRD.ca. Thanks, and we'll talk again tomorrow.